Hey everybody, Sean from Media Assault here, and got a treat for you this week. I tend to review movies that most people haven't seen or haven't heard of, and I'm going to continue that this week, and I got a real gem this time out. If you're a fan of B-movies, if you're a fan of horror movies, if you're a fan of comedy movies, this is a movie you're going to want to check out. And the movie is Bubba Ho-tep. And this is a film that can appeal to all of those audiences, and basically without hesitation I would recommend it to anybody who is a fan of B-movies, horror movies, or comedy movies, and you'll especially like it if you would like all three of those elements rolled into one nice little package. Bubba Ho-tep was written and directed by Don Coscarelli, who, if you're a fan of horror movies, will know from a little flick he did called Phantasm. And Phantasm is, of course, the 1979 movie about a funeral home run by a big tall guy from outer space. Bubba Ho-tep is a movie about Elvis Presley and John F. Kennedy living in a rest home battling a mummy. That's right. Elvis Presley made a deal in 1977 with an Elvis impersonator called Sebastian Haff, and they switched places. And Elvis is played by Bruce Campbell, who is probably the best actor working in B-movies today. Probably one of the most underrated actors in movies today. And his portrayal of Elvis in this movie is fantastic, but I'll get to that in a second. Elvis made a deal back in '77 to switch places with this impersonator, and it was the impersonator who died on the toilet back in August of 1977. The real Elvis Presley is still alive and living in the Shady Rest nursing home in Mud Creek, Texas. Living a few rooms down the hall from him is John F. Kennedy, who is played by Ossie Davis. And if you know Ossie Davis, you know he's an elderly black man. And yes, John F. Kennedy is an elderly black man in this movie. How? Well, Mr. Kennedy says that after the assassination attempt in Dallas, his body was dyed black, his brain was removed and replaced with a bag of sand, and then he was hidden away from the public by Lyndon Johnson and then forgotten about, because with a bag of sand as a brain, what threat could he be? His real brain is kept at the White House and supposedly beams thoughts back to him occasionally. I am completely aware that this sounds really ridiculous, and that's part of this movie's charm, because it doesn't stop there. Elvis and Jack Kennedy have to team up at the Shady Rest nursing home to battle a mummy, hence the title Bubba Ho-tep. And this mummy is sucking on the souls and eating the souls of the patients of Shady Rest. Crazy, right? At its core, this movie is surprisingly touching, funny, and I would hesitate to say a little bit thought-provoking about the treatment of senior citizens. Don Coscarelli has reportedly said that this, at the core of this movie, is actually a drama about what's going on with senior citizens. I might be stretching it a little bit, but it does make you think a little bit. And there are a couple of key scenes where you kind of wonder about the treatment of senior citizens who are left basically to die in these nursing homes. But not to bum you out, this is a funny movie. It's funny because Bruce Campbell is hilarious as the elderly Elvis Presley. He's got a lot of scenes where he kind of contemplates the achievements of his life and what his life could have been like had it not ended with the switching places and, of course, the eventual death on the toilet in 1977. He wonders about, whether he could contact his former wife Priscilla and talk to his daughter. A couple of touching moments there. If you're a John F. Kennedy assassination buff, there are a couple of nods and winks and nudges about that in this film. There are a lot of references for both characters that are kind of funny and kind of nice to see, and they don't beat you over the head with them. You either get them or you don't. It's kind of cool. There is a plot about a mummy in this movie, And even though if you're summing up this movie, it's JFK and Elvis versus a mummy at a rest home, the mummy parts are probably the weakest part of the film. The banter between John F. Kennedy and Elvis Presley are the absolutely hands down the best part of this movie and the reason to see this movie. The mummy parts kind of get in the way, if that makes any sense. But they're there to make this sort of a well-rounded movie with a beginning and an end. So they're a necessary evil, I guess. But the high points of this movie are not the mummy or the plot involving the mummy. The high points of this movie all involve Bruce Campbell's performance as Elvis Presley and Ossie Davis's rather sweet performance as John F. Kennedy. And you're kind of left with, as the viewer, you're kind of left with the doubt: are either one of these guys really who they say they are? And it would probably be more fun if they were. So they are, but they might not be. It's really kind of funny. It's hard to explain, and I realize that it sounds like I'm ranting a bit, but this is a movie that I definitely think you should check out. Go into it with no expectations whatsoever. I know it's kind of hard to do after I've just ranted about it for 6 minutes, but go into this movie without any idea of what really is going to happen, I guess is the best way to put it. I've never seen this movie on HBO. I've never seen this movie on Showtime, Movie Channel, Sci-Fi, Chiller, any of those channels. And that's too bad, because this is a movie that really deserves an audience. It really deserves to be seen, even though it's hard to explain. And I don't know. So that's why I'm doing a review of it tonight. It's a movie that, back when I used to manage a movie theater, it is a movie that I did show, and it's a movie that got a really great reception from people of all ages. Elderly people, young people, college students. There's sort of a universal appeal to this movie. It is rated R. It's got a few, gross parts in it. There's some sexual humor and stuff, but overall, I would recommend this movie to pretty much anybody over the age of 17 that is allowed to see a rated R movie without a parent or guardian. Really a funny movie, and it's not perfect. It's low budget. Some of the special effects are really crappy. Some of the sets are really kind of lame, but give it a shot. And that's Bubba Ho-tep. Check it out. And there's Bruce Campbell as Elvis Presley. And I'm going to go on record and say that this is probably the best on-film representation, or I'm going to go on record and say that this is probably the best performance. What's the term I'm looking for? Portrayal. I'm going to go on record and say that this is the best film portrayal of Elvis Presley so far. And it's Bruce Campbell, not Kurt Russell, not Don Johnson, not any of the myriad of people that have played Elvis Presley in the past. It's Bruce Campbell. And Bubba Ho-tep is the film to see it in. So Bubba Ho-tep, I'm going to give it, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. With the admission that there are some weaknesses to this film. Like I said, the special effects are kind of bad. The plot is crazy and actually gets in the way of some of the humorous stuff. But I'm still going to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm going to give it a strong recommendation. So hunt down Bubba Ho-tep, see it, enjoy it, and make sure to rate, comment, and then subscribe to my channel so you can see some more reviews of movies that you probably have never heard of and should see. And of course, we'll have some music and video game reviews occasionally as well. Also, visit media-assault.com for a full review on Bubba Ho-tep, and of course about 300 other movies that I've reviewed over the course of the last 13 years online. Do it.